Warrami guys, Budgerina and welcome to Mick's 4-wheel drive touring. It's been long awaited and it's finally bloody here guys, the Getting Out There series. You know, I've been talking about this for months, but due to COVID lockdown and everything else, I haven't been able to get out and film properly. So here I am, I'm finally out again and I'm finally bloody filming the damn thing. Quickly, the Getting Out There series is going to be a series of videos comprising, to start with at least, of 6 parts, and then I'll add some additional information on later. But I'll be comprising 6 parts to start with, to discuss the basics for anybody that wants to start getting out and seeing more of our country, be it by public transport and your main tourist attractions or museums, things like that, or just places to go and see, or whether you want to go cross-country 4-wheel drive and hardcore sort of stuff. In the first episode, guys, I think we need to work out where you want to go and what sort of things you want to see. Planning your visit, what it is you want to do. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to want to go across the country. You know, not everybody's keen to travel through the Nullarbor and or the Simpson Desert and all that sort of stuff. Some people just want to get out and spend a friendly day out with the family, or a fun day out with the family, you know. It's my wife, son and I used to do that when we were down in Sydney and before I got my licence. We used to use what at the time was called the Family Fun Day tickets, and would travel around by public transport, and we'd go to the museums and we'd go into Circular Quay and get a ferry across over to Manly or to Watson's Bay and all these different little areas and go for a walk around the city and that. Then we'd be able to get the river cab back, and the Family Fun Day tickets at the time meant neither of us paid more than $2.50 each. You know, it covered all trains from Central Coast to Wollongong and out to the Blue Mountains. It covered all buses and it covered all ferries. So, yeah, Family Fun Day passes were great. However, I believe since the introduction of Opal, they no longer do that. To be honest, I haven't caught a train or a bus since the introduction of Opal. So, I really don't know how any of that works. Cheers, guys. I am actually set up here for a camper tonight, so yeah guys, by public transport you can still see a lot of different places. You know, the Australian Natural History Museum in Sydney, we went and saw that. You've also got the Powerhouse Museum in Sydney. You've got, I believe there's a new Powerhouse Museum in Parramatta. I'm not 100% sure if that's actually been done. I know there was talk about that with floods along Parramatta River. You've got the Western Sydney Zoo. There's a new one opened up here on the Central Coast, which I believe you'll be able to access public transport to. You know, there's lots of different places to access still on public transport. Obviously, you wouldn't get up here with I don't think many taxi drivers would be too happy to bring you up here, and buses and that don't run. So, but there are options for public transport, or just for anybody with a basic motor vehicle. You know, going into the city, I'd probably recommend you get public transport for that, because parking's a nightmare, and from what I've seen, pretty much all of it you've got to pay a mint for. So if you want to do things like in the city and that, I'd probably recommend using public transport for that. But again, you know, the Western Sydney Zoo and the one up here, and you've got the reptile park up here at Carryong as well. You see Plotty as you're coming up the M1 freeway. So lots of different places you can travel just on public transport. And if that's the sort of thing you guys want to get out and do, well, really there's nothing stopping you. If you've got a car, again, it makes it a bit easier. Maybe not cheaper, but makes it a bit easier for a lot of cases if you do have a car. But yeah, there is nothing stopping you getting out and seeing those places. Even if you're up in Queensland, you can get to Movie World, Dream World, the Gold Coast, all these different places by public transport. If that's all you want to see, then again, you don't need a four-wheel drive. So you can be quite picky in what sort of vehicle you want. Growing up as a child, I remember I was about 13 or something, and we went up to Dream World, and yeah, that's me in a Speedo. Pretty sad, isn't it? But we went up to the Dream World and Gold Coast and everything. You know, we did Movie World, Wet n Wild and all that sort of thing when I was about 12, 13 years old. And I have some great memories of that. We went up and we took a few days to get there and a few days to get back. From memory, I think we went along the coast going up and then a bit more inland coming back. We've also been out to Western Plains Zoo at Dubbo, and my step-uncle, Al, he used to work out there, rest in peace, Bully. He used to work out there as a elephant trainer. And fortunately for us, he actually managed to take us behind the scenes. So we got photos, my stepsister and I have a photo with the elephant trunk over our shoulder. We got to go backstage and see the wildcats, the lions and that being fed and things like that. It was a brilliant experience. I don't know if Western Plains Zoo actually offer an after hours tour like that, but if they don't, it's something I reckon they should, because it's an amazing thing to see. You know, sort of get behind the scenes a little bit. It's really cool. So again, guys, we did that in I think it was about a 91 or a 96 model Magna, like the thing up here. And that's all we needed. So we got around and did heaps in that thing. So many memories driving around in those cars and travelling. As a kid growing up, we used to come from Sydney. I grew up in Blacktown area. So as a kid growing up, we'd come up from Sydney and we'd stay up here on the Central Coast, and we stayed in tents and things like that up on around Twin Bay and Long Jetty and stuff like that as kids. My auntie used to bring everything up in a Tirana and a box trailer, and my grandfather had put it in his old, I think it was an XA Falcon, and we had great times doing that too. I was quite young, so I don't remember a lot of it, but you know, I had some great times, as you can see from the photos above. Caught my first fish actually at North Entrance when I was a couple of years old, again, as you can see above. And yes, absolutely amazing memories just of simple things like that. And again, they were all done in family cars. There was no four-wheel drive. There was no four-wheel drive in our family until my uncle Bruce bought one. And the first time I remember seeing that, I believe it was a Navara, and that was back around about 2001. He may have had it previous to that, but yeah, back about 2001. So if you're happy just to travel sort of paved roads or even easy dirt roads, like a lot of the stuff up here in the Wattigans is, then you don't need a four-wheel drive. I won't recommend bringing a family car up into the Wattigans here. It does get quite chewed up, especially with the logging trucks and some of the other four-wheel drivers. So I won't really recommend bringing a family car up here, but it is possible. If you're keen, then yeah, it can be done. There's no doubt about it. And lots of people do. So if you want to get out into the bush and see places like the Wattigans, again, you can do that in a standard car, but I would recommend a four-wheel drive. It's just a much more comfortable and I believe a safer trip in. Do you want to go and visit coastal areas like, again, with the Central Coast that I grew up coming up here as a child? Central Coast and up to Port Macquarie and Coffs Harbour and all these beautiful, beautiful places. Again, they're all accessible by a two-wheel drive vehicle. Now, obviously, wherever you go is going to depend as well as on where you want to stay. So if you do want to go remote, I would recommend a four-wheel drive because it's a much more comfortable experience. It's a much safer experience, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to tow a caravan or something along those lines. So, yeah, guys, they're the sort of locations. Do you want to travel just to your main areas? Do you want to get up into the bush like this in the Wattigans? Do you want to see a little bit more remote sort of stuff like Lithgow, Blackfellows hand trails and the glowworm tunnels and things like that? by all means, Three Sisters and Wentworth Falls and things like that, you can get to in a car, in any car. But if you want to go out to things like the Glowworm Tunnel and stuff like that, again, or up here in the Wattigans, Barrington Tops, things like that, I'd recommend a four-wheel drive. It's just going to make it a more comfortable, easier ride. So we've sort of touched there on how are you going to get there. Again, a lot of places are accessible by public transport, and in some cases public transport is the better option. You also have the option, and my grandparents did this after Pop retired from the council. They started travelling around and they started doing coach tours. And I remember they went down and did the Great Ocean Road and a number of different coach tours, and they loved it. Absolutely loved it. Normally with those tours, they cover your accommodation and all that sort of thing, and some of your foods and whatnot as well. So there's another option if you really want to get out and start seeing the country, but you really don't want to drive. If you want to go a bit further, but you don't want to drive, look at coach tours or tag-along tours even. You know, there's always these different options of ways to get there. Again though, if you do want to get up into places like the Wattigan Mountains and Blue Mountains or Barrington Tops or Kosciuszko, a four-wheel drive would be more recommended than a sedan, but in a lot of cases a sedan or family car will still do it. And the next thing you want to think of is where you want to stay when you get to these places. You know, and this again is going to dictate the sort of vehicle you will require for later on, and we're going to get to your vehicle more in episode 2. If you want to go to places like all the main tourist attractions and things like that, you've got countless hotels and motels around there. If you want to come up to the Central Coast or Port Macquarie, things like that, caravan parks and holiday inns and things like that, you've got a lot of different places. If you want to stay in a caravan park, do you want to tow a caravan or a camper trailer? Or are you happy just to pitch a tent or a swag? You know, a little car like a Toyota Corolla will be enough to get you into a caravan park with a tent and some basic cooking equipment in it, and I'll show you that in a later video. So you really don't need a lot if you're just happy to stay in a caravan park in a tent. If you want to tow a caravan, then you're going to start looking at something that's got a better tow rating, like a dual cab ute or a four-wheel drive. Or are you like me and like to get completely off grid and away from everything and go out on your own? Like, as you know, I've got the Pajero set up with a bed inside and cooking stations at the back and everything I need with it. Fridge and dual battery and power and all that. So I don't need to buy or worry about anything else when I go camping. I pull up, roll the awning out, lay the bed out. I'm done. So do you want to do that? Again, do you want to take a camper trailer or a caravan? Most of the places up in the Wattigans, there's no issue whatsoever of a caravan or a camper trailer getting up here. Even if you're doing more remote travel, a decent off-road caravan or camper trailer will make your trip a lot more comfortable. Obviously there's going to be drawbacks to lugging a big heavy caravan around, but there's also advantages too, that if you want to stay there for a few days, you can park up, you can set your caravan up, set your home up, and you can lock it up and drive away. Whereas with me, it's a little bit more of a pain because I've got to roll up awnings and things like that. But I can drive around with the bed open, and that's sort of pretty easy for me. So yeah, guys, they're the basics of how you can start getting out and seeing more of the country. In the next episode, which will be released on Sunday, as you know, normally I do release my videos on Wednesday, but for the Getting Out There series, these 6 episodes, I will be releasing every Wednesday and every Sunday. So just make sure you subscribe and hit that bell, guys, so you don't miss that. In the next episode, we're going to discuss more about picking the right vehicle. What vehicle is going to suit your needs best for the sort of touring and the sort of exploring you want to do. And what sort of budget are you going to have and things like that. So we'll get a lot more into detail with picking a vehicle in the next episode, guys. But for this one, guys, there's no reason you can't get out there and explore the country. There's so many beautiful, amazing places that you can still get to on public transport if you don't drive. Think about your local area, your local town, your local cities, and where you can get to on your basic public transport, and maybe a bit of a walk, or in some cases a push bike ride, things like that. guys, there are so many absolutely stunning things to see in your local area that you don't need a car for, and that you can rely on public transport or your own two legs. So just keep that in mind, guys. There is heaps out there. This country is the most amazing country in the world. So, alright guys, I'm going to cut it. Remember, subscribe and hit that bell, because these are being released twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays. So you've got to hit that bell, guys, so you don't miss any of these. Alright, as always guys, peace, take care, and I'll see you on the tracks. Yano.